Reminder that Dominicans are not black. We are not black, and no matter how much black Americans cry about it, we are not black. We will never be black. Yes, I look black, but we are not black. And it's just a reminder to black Americans who are so pathetically forcing Dominicans to label themselves as black. We keep telling them we have our own culture. Me no black, papi. They still force it on us. So just a reminder, Dominicans are not black. Period.
So I made a video generally asking people if I looked like a black person from the United States. I genuinely asked that question, and you cannot imagine how many hateful comments I have gotten from people saying that I should go back to my country, or they're gonna report me to ICE, or saying that I should go to hell, or you think you're better than me. A lot of things. Just to clear the air up, I never said that black people are ghetto and educated. They don't dress well. I never said that. You guys said it. Is what you guys have on your heart. That's not on my heart. There is people who are not educated, ghetto, everywhere. There is Dominican women who are ghetto, Latin women who are ghetto. I never said that, okay? And actually, the black people I have been around to are very successful, educated, and they dress very well. My point was that I can personally tell when someone is not from the United States. It doesn't matter their skin color, their hair texture, I can tell. And actually, I never said anything about skin color. I was talking about mannerisms, clothing, and things like that. But you guys just assumed whatever you wanted to assume. I was talking again about mannerisms, clothing. I think black people have a different swag that Latin American people have. Yes, a lot of Latin people have picked up on your style or whatever. But I'm a country girl. I was born in the countryside of my country. I'm not a city girl, as you can tell. I don't even wear makeup like that, or my clothing is no usually like a club clothing or anything like that. But I never said that I feel like I'm better than you because I speak Spanish. That's what you guys said, and I can't say I can't get it because I can kind of get it. But this is the internet, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, back to what I was saying. I can personally tell when a black person is from El Congo or South Africa, or I don't know what it is. I can just tell because I have been around black people from everywhere, and I have been around, of course, Colombians, black Venezuelans. I can tell my people apart. Seems like you guys cannot tell, and a lot of you guys said that I look like a black American woman. That's okay. That doesn't offend me at all because, once again, I know the black people I know are very educated, successful, and they dress very well. That doesn't bother me at all, like you guys said. That's what you guys said. Once again, you guys don't remember also that English is not my first language. I am still learning, so there is things and like cultural shocks that I have had with my friends, with the people who speak English, the American people that I know, because sometimes they have to ask, what do you mean by that? Because there is things that I say on a tone that you might think is, I don't know. You might be annoyed. I don't know. It's not my first language. I'm still learning. But anyways, I wish, well, there's a lot of black people in my comments who are saying, I know what you say because they live in Washington, D.C., New York City. In my country, for example, there is like something called, black people from this country have told me that there is something called like the Dominican woman walk, like a saucy walk. That's what I'm talking about, like mannerisms, clothing, and stuff like that. But anyways, last thing, I actually was trying to point out that Mexicans, I just wasn't very specific. Mexicans talk to me in in English. I talk back to them in Spanish because I can tell when they can't speak English really well. Nothing wrong with that. But when I go to a restaurant, like a Latin restaurant, and I want to take a break from the American culture, I want to speak Spanish, I don't want to speak English, and I speak to them in Spanish and they speak back to me in English. I don't like that. I'm speaking to you in Spanish. I'm in a restaurant. I know you can speak Spanish. Please speak to me in Spanish, because what if I don't know English? I think that's very disrespectful. And yes, black Latinos exist, and I just want you to know that. Anyways, I hope you have a blessed day.
This is a conversation that we have to have because a lot of Dominicans do not want to hear this. In fact, when they are seen as black here in the United States, they say, I'm not black, I'm Dominican. And yes, as I mentioned before, I am Dominican. My mom is white and my father, it's not necessarily black, but close enough. This is my mom. She's literally white. And when she was a kid, she was also naturally blonde, and she has green eyes. This is me and my siblings, and as you can see, I'm this one, and I was blonde. Here is a picture with my dad. This is me. This is me again with my siblings. And I was the only sibling who was kind of blonde like my mom. And as a kid, people made me feel as if I was more valuable just because I was blonde. Like I was better than my siblings. Like, oh, she's la rubia, you know, they used to say those things to me because I was blonde. And when my father would go out with me by himself without my mom, people wouldn't think that I was his kid. But yes, in Latin America and here, everywhere, whiteness, the closer you are to whiteness, the better you are. That's what they teach us in the Dominican Republic, in Latin America, here in the United States. I would say that in the entire world. And that's what colonialism left us. Because especially in the Dominican Republic, remember that our history, we live in an island that we share with Haiti. And I would say that 99% of people in Haiti are black. In the Dominican Republic, I will have to go back to history to 1505 with the devastation of Osorio, where basically they devastated the part of the island that is now Haiti, and then the Spanish moved to the part that it's the Dominican Republic, and they were mixing with the slaves and the indigenous people. But the French, the Portuguese, and the people who came with slaves to the part that today is Haiti, they wouldn't mix with them. They brought their women. The Spanish didn't bring women, so they were having sex with slaves and indigenous women. That's why in the Dominican Republic you can see white people, black people, people in the middle. We're mixed, more mixed than they are in Haiti. And then our history, our independence was from Haiti. So there you have the history of Dominicans seeing Haiti as the oppressor, basically. And then in Haiti, obviously, they have more black people than in the Dominican Republic. And then it's not only about blackness that is rejected in the Dominican Republic, they even see it as something patriotic about it. And then they reject the blackness not only because of culture, because they want to disassociate themselves from Haitians, but then when they come to the United States, they say that they're not black, even though literally we are descendants of Africans too. And Haitians are literally our brothers. 3 minutes is not enough to talk about this.
Why are Dominican Republicans always saying, I'm not black, I'm not black? How can you have brown skin, curly hair, African features, and still say, I'm not black? Let's talk about why so many Dominicans deny their blackness, even when the mirror says otherwise. Do you understand? It's so crazy. First of all, let me tell you about these people. Dominicans, we are colonized by Spanish people. That means centuries of being taught that whiteness is equals to beauty, success, power, and blackness is equals to slavery, ugliness, and shame. The Dominican Republic shares an island with Haiti, right? A proudly black nation that freed itself from slavery. But Dominicans were taught to hate Haitians, and because Haitians are openly black, Dominicans started associating blackness with being less than. The anti-Haitian hate turns into anti-black self-hate. That's a lot. Anyways, let's keep watching these videos. I'll be back with a lot of things that you actually need to know, right?
A lot of black people in the Dominican Republic say things like, yo no soy negro, soy dominicano. Why are black people in the Dominican Republic trying so hard not to be black and or acknowledge their African ancestry? And rather than saying, yes, I'm black, I'm African descent, they'll say, I'm not black, I'm Hispanic. And sure, technically, because they speak Spanish, they are Hispanic, sure. But speaking the language of the Spaniards that took away everything you are, your culture, your ethnic identity, and your language, and then replace it with theirs, that doesn't make you them. But in this case, African descending people in the Dominican Republic are denying the fact that they descend from somewhere in Africa, more than likely Nigeria, and completely denying the descent and saying, I'm not black, I'm Hispanic. black. There is such a shame in being black. And what I've come to understand is that when I was a little kid, every single time that I turned on the TV and they showed anything in regards to Africa, they would show all the hungry little kids with the little bubble stomachs digging in the trash and all types of poverty, the most degrading and inferior conditions that people can be depicted as is all I ever saw anytime something about Africa was depicted on television. There was a rapper who did an interview and said, I'm so thankful for slavery because if not for Europeans going over to Africa and bringing us to America, I'd still be an African booty scratcher right now. So you see, that is very sad and obviously so much internal hatred. But the real question is it their fault? The macro media pushes this narrative and agenda that the standard of beauty is white and everything about the African, what we were taught in American TV, is inferior, and everything that was been taught about the white folk is superior, elegance, royalty, right? Then you realize that dark skin and or black is associated with poverty and inferiority. So then when Dominicans say, I'm not black, it's like saying, no, I'm not poor, I'm not inferior, I'm Hispanic, I'm superior. This is internalized racism, absolutely. But if you do some research, you realize it makes sense why we're like this, why we don't want to associate ourselves with what we've been indoctrinated to believe is poor, inferior, and everything negative. We want to associate ourselves with everything that is beautiful, superior, and class.
You guys, I really appreciate that y'all are enjoying my videos and resonating with my deep love for Stained. But please stop assuming my race in the comments, because it's a little frustrating for me. Because I'm not a black woman. I'm a mixed race Louisiana Creole. I'm mixed with Native American, French, Spanish, and West and Central African. And I consider myself to be of European descent. Just because I am not phenotypically white does not mean I'm ethnically black.
I don't see myself as black.
What do you see yourself as?
I'm a white person.
You live the Afrikaans culture. I mean, your man is Afrikaans.
I don't identify as being black. I was brought up white, so I couldn't learn how to be black. I always thought of marrying a white man. I never had the opportunity to learn from black people. So I'm white.
I bet you're laughing after watching that short video, right? It is funny, isn't it? But let me tell you the truth. That is not funny. That ain't funny one bit. That is a serious problem right there. That is not mental health. That is not some voodoo. That is not some imaginary thing. No. It's all up in here. She is programmed to be the way she is. And for somebody to sit down, a grown-ass woman to sit down, deny everything that makes her who she is. She denies her own heritage, denies her own culture, denies her own skin. And you think that is funny? That is not funny. There are loads of African brothers and sisters out there who are going through exactly the same what you've just seen right now. It's all up in here. It's not some voodoo. This is not about voodoo. This is not about some spirituality thing. No. They are programmed to be exactly the way she is. And how do you educate somebody like this? How do you try to make her see the other side of the picture, that, you know, she shouldn't be thinking that way? How do you try to explain to her that she needs help? Absolutely no chance in hell. And that is the same problem a lot of African brothers and sisters are going through right now. Social media, the internet, the news, false narrative about events around the world are completely brainwashed most of African citizens. And to get them out of that shell, it is mission impossible. So could you imagine someone like this lady you've just seen? Maybe she end up being in position of authority tomorrow. You are all doomed. You look at her, think, oh, she's an African sister. She's going to understand the African way of life. She clearly said it. I'm not African. I don't think like an African. I'm white. That is it. It's all up in here. That cannot change. That is not going to change. We laugh. We make jokes about these things. But trust me, it is real. And that is some of the greatest problem Africa is going through right now. Everything is being programmed all up in here, in the heads of the young ones. The internet, social media, and all of these things is messing people up. How do we tell this lady? How do we help her to let her know that, come on, you can't think that way? It's right to think that way, but you need to embrace your heritage. You need to embrace who you are. For somebody that completely denies who she is.
You're black.
Are you colorblind?
I'm white. You're black.
Are you colorblind?
I'm not colorblind.
Do you know what black is? This microphone is black. This phone is black. Does it look like me?
But we call people from Africa black people.
Are you white?
But that's how the world sees us, right? You are black. I'm white.
You are not white. I'm not black.
I'm not white and you're not black, but everybody, the whole world knows that if I call a person black, they know what I mean.
Then the word is colorblind. I'm not a black man. Yeah. Look at my face.
Yeah.
I'm more like brown.
And I'm more what? Pink?
You're more like, you look like cheese. I would say, yeah, because cheese.
I look like cheese.
You have more of cheese color than white. You are not white.
I'm off-white.
You are everything but white.
Yeah.
It's offensive for someone to call me a black man because I'm not black.
Yeah. So we should just stop using color for race.
Dominicans be like, I'm not black. Meanwhile, the picture of their abuelita in the living room.
Do you want to know why most Dominicans and Puerto Ricans, particularly the Afro-Latinos, the black Latinos, don't like to claim blackness or African or Afrocentrism? You want to know why? Because when slavery was going on, the breaking of the slave was so horrendous in the Caribbean, you couldn't imagine. Not to say over in the United States and in the southern plantations, we didn't have our fair share of nightmares. Best believe we did. But in the Caribbean, it was a totally different beast. We were in the Caribbean in 1555, and we got fucked up out there. Really fucked up out there. They put up something called the caste system, which is racial hierarchy. Did you know that? Spanish people, white Spanish people, then people born in New Spain of Spanish descent, mestizos, basically Spanish and Native American descent, Native American, then African. So don't tell me there's no such thing as a race thing in the Caribbean. There is. There's colorism, there's all of that. There's also some things where they want to perfect the race, basically. Don't date anybody darker, or Africano, or Negro. So you be careful of that. So that's taught in the Caribbean. Also, another factor is, because they're also very broken and suffering from self-hatred, what happens is, during the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, when a lot of people from the Caribbean were migrating, immigrating to America, what was going on in America at the time? Segregation, Jim Crow. The civil rights movement was just starting to kick off a little bit. So a lot of our Afro-Latino brothers and sisters was witness what African Americans were going through. And you know what? They didn't want no piece of that. So to escape persecution, I'm Hispanic, I'm Dominican, I'm Puerto Rican. That's how it came to be. That's how it came to be.
Okay. I'm not black, I'm Jamaican. Like, scratch that. I'm not black, I'm Canadian. What kind of Canadian are you? I'm Jamaican. Is my skin close to black? Sure. For the sake of the people that live in the United States, I'm black. However, I'm not first to say I'm black. I'm quick to say I'm Jamaican. I'm not going to say I'm black. You can physically see what the fuck I am. Why am I going to tell you what color my skin is? That's literally irrelevant. So if someone's telling you they're not black, don't get offended. Get educated. People who say they're black don't have an identity. That's why they say they're black. And the people we are referring to are the ones that were in slavery in the United States that got pulled from all these black colored countries and mixed up. So now they don't know where the fuck they're from, so they just say black. So for Afro-Latina wants to say she's not black, she damn well is not black. The fuck, she knows where the fuck she's from. She's African and Latina. The fuck is to know she's black for? You see her skin is not black. Why does it matter? Like, please, fix it. Fix the education system.
I know black, I Dominican. Y'all are so quick to make fun of the people who say that, yet you're the most racist towards them. Why the hell would they want to claim you? Also, our culture is very different. I'm Puerto Rican, but it's literally similar to Dominicans. We grew up not talking about race, not caring about it, because we come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. We even have Asian Puerto Ricans, okay? Some of y'all cannot comprehend it because you're so used to the American lifestyle and standards, but you're gonna have to expand your mind a little bit when it comes to other cultures. On top of that, I didn't forget y'all calling ICE on Hispanics, yet they were the ones that were protesting alongside you guys during BLM. You see how that works? You see the hypocrisy? Y'all are evil and sick. My parents, grandparents, and family after that were all born and raised in Puerto Rico. They have never claimed to be American, and they aren't. So you shouldn't expect them to adhere to whatever the fuck you guys are talking about. If you ask my grandma, are you black or white? She's gonna look at you and say, I'm Puerto Rican. It's really not a big deal, guys.
Afroamericano y el americano está tan obsesionado con el color de piel, con tu raza, como...
All right, I'm getting up on this. First and fucking foremost, everybody and their mothers want to be talking about Dominicans right now. And I understand, we're all just collectively, globally, but specifically in this country, we're all in this time of processing ancestral grief and colonial trauma and understanding the social construct of race and how that makes up your experience in America and in the Caribbean and Latin America. But I get it. But everybody and their mothers, I swear to fucking God, got something to say about Dominicans. So I want to make this very clear. In the video, this woman talks about how everybody's over here calling Dominicans anti-black because we don't embrace or connect with our African heritage. And she's basically talking about how that's wrong and how Dominicans, it's not that Dominicans have internalized blackness, it's that we're mixed. I agree and I also disagree. Dominicans have internalized blackness. Let's get it real straight, all right? And I don't want to overgeneralize, but most Dominicans, everyone in my family, me being Dominican, I had internalized blackness. Everyone in my family had internalized blackness. No one wanted to embrace their African roots. Everyone was like, let's straighten our hair. Look at my nose, I'm so Spanish. Did you know that I'm half Spanish? Everyone is overly proud about being European and Spanish, and that is a result of colonial indoctrination and anti-blackness being embedded in the systems within the Caribbean and specifically Dominican Republic. So yes, Dominicans carry anti-blackness. Okay, let's get that straight. And at the same time, she is spilling tea because we are triracial people. We are mestizo, mulatto, mixed people. We cannot fit in the category. We cannot compartmentalize our identity into a box like Americans do or like Americans want to do. So even though I do think Dominicans carry anti-blackness, at the same time, Dominicans and other triracial, biracial, Latinos, Caribbeans, and we cannot fit in the box, in the category that Americans create around race. We are not just black. If I walk around saying I'm just a black woman, that is me denying my Taino and my Spanish roots. But I also can't walk around saying I'm Taino, I'm Spanish, I'm not black, me no black, me Dominican, because that is also erasure. That is erasure of my African roots as well. But I also can't walk around saying I'm Taino, I'm indigenous, and not understand that like I present as a mostly African woman and that I also have European roots. We gotta embrace all of it, and that is the mixed experience. That is the experience of being a mestizo. That is the experience of living in a culture that is mixed. And so no, we can't fit in a box. And anyway, either way, everybody got something to say. If I'm walking around and saying I'm black, there will definitely be black people saying, "Oh, she not black. She trying to like talk for all black women. She trying to take away from our blackness. She's appropriating. She's a mixed person. She's not black." But if I say I'm not black, people be like, "Oh, she's not embracing her blackness. She's not embracing her African culture. You look like a black woman to me. You're anti-black." Either way, everybody got something to say about my identity. And for the first time, I understand what biracial mixed people go through in this country, because I never felt like a mixed person until I moved into a PWI, until I was not around Dominican people. But anyway, yes, it's complex. Dominicans cannot fit into the category of black and white. We can and we should embrace our African roots and our African heritage, but we cannot fit into a box. And I think that's why people are so amazed and talking about Dominican identity, and they're so interested in our culture and in whether we fit in a box or not. People in America are so interested in putting Dominicans in a box when that's just not that's not how we are. That is not how our culture is at all. And I think, frankly, there needs to be some education about, colonial history, the history of colonization in the Latin Americas and specifically in the Caribbean. There needs to be a conversation about syncretism and anti-blackness, anti-indigeneity, and the experience of being mestizo, mulatto, and mixed, and how you can be mixed and still a black person, mixed and still an indigenous person. Mixed people literally dismantle the entire understanding of race as a singular category, and I think that gets people mad. So yeah, that's my tea.
Why Dominican nationalists don't like or want other Dominicans to identify as Black. Now, bear with me because I'm going to be reading my thoughts. Now, the reason why they don't like this is because it makes them feel like we are erasing their culture. And to me, this is wild because considering that Dominicans have spread our culture around the world, like, for example, New York City, Washington Heights, Massachusetts, Lynn, and Lawrence, and in Washington, D.C., we have the largest population of our people there. And you also have a large population of Dominicans in Spain and in Italy. So it's wild to say that our culture is being erased when our culture is alive and well around the world. Now, we can admit that Dominican culture and Dominicans who migrate undergo an evolution, meaning our culture is evolving because we migrate. And this explains why we have a growing population of Afro Dominicans and people who identify as such. Another great example of the evolution of our culture is Aventura, Romeo Santos, Prince Royce, all raised in New York City, who blended bachata with hip hop and R&B and pop, making it mainstream, meaning that without the migration of Dominicans who settled in New York City, bachata would not have been widely known as it is now because of the migration and the evolution of bachata. Another example is Proyecto Uno and Fulanito, who also fuse merengue with house. Other examples are foods like mango, sancocho, the chimichurri burger, who were popularized in New York City because of Dominican migration to New York City. Meaning that although those things are all considered native to the Dominican Republic and the Dominican culture, because of Dominican migration, our cultural influence has become worldwide. And because of the migration, our culture has evolved. I don't understand how people don't see that because of migration, Dominican culture has spread and evolved and still considered Dominican. Like people still consider bachata, merengue, and mango all Dominican. So it's wild to me that some of you would not consider Afro Dominicans Dominicans, instead considering them as people who are trying to erase the Dominican culture. When in reality, in our country, in the Dominican Republic, the government has done a great job at erasing and suppressing the Dominican culture itself. For example, they have privatized and allowed gentrification of public cultural spaces. Like, for example, 70 to 80% of Dominican beaches are owned by people who are not Dominican, which means the privatization of these beaches do not allow access to the local Dominicans to their own beaches. The government did that, not an Afro-Dominican. How about the demolition of El Barrio La Surra, which was the center of Afro-Dominican culture? And it was destroyed and demolished for urban renewal projects that favored tourism. The government allowed that, not Afro-Dominicans. How about the displacement of local artisans for mass-produced souvenirs, replacing Afro-Taino crafters and crafts in tourist zones. The government allowed that, not Afro Dominicans. So, like, if we want to blame someone for cultural erasure, you need to look at the people in power. Lastly, with all that said, this fear of ethnic cleansing directly comes from our Spanish ancestors who feared being displaced because of what white people, Spanish white people, did to Black and Indigenous people, which speaks to my original point that just because you identify with Dominican or not racially white, it doesn't mean that you are proud of your Blackness or your Indigenous ancestry, especially when you value and align with whiteness, like the fear of ethnic cleansing.
Welcome back. Yeah, we were talking about Haitians, right? Do not mind those videos you see. Those people are crazy. They don't have sense. Now, blackness is not a costume, and it's definitely not something to be ashamed of. So if you're Dominican and benefiting from black culture, it's time to respect black Americans. Stop pretending you are not one of them. Because I've noticed these people, they'll pretend they're not one of them, but when they see police, right, or whenever there's deportation going on in America, they start saying, I'm black, I'm black. But in the media or on the media, you find them screaming, I am not black, I'm not black. Denying blackness, blatantly saying, oh, I'm not black. I really don't know why. That is pure hatred and is very, very, very shameful, right? How can you have brown skin color, have the whole features of an African person, for crying out loud, and you say you're not black? You are. You can, yeah, we know people who are the real blacks are the black Americans, but you can always say, I'm Dominican Republic, but I'm black, right? Because I've done a video here saying, okay, the reason why Africans shouldn't say they are blacks is because at least as Africans, you have your culture, you have languages, right, in Africa. So you don't come out to say, oh, I'm black. Africans are dominated. They're all black people. Now, they have both white and then they have black. My own annoyance is, why would they now be saying, oh, we are not black? We are not black. Who the hell are you? Right? It's crazy that you're openly denying your black self. Denying blackness won't save you. Loving your African roots, your history, and your people, that's how we break the cycle. If you're Dominican and you're watching this, it's not an attack. It's an invitation. Claim what's yours. Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. Don't let shame erase your truth. Do you get that? We are here. Do you know what being black is? If you don't know what being black is, go watch my videos. I've done a lot of things about being black, right? And this week I'm going to really do a lot concerning blacks. And I hope you follow my videos because you're going to actually learn, because you're missing out. Trust me, you're missing out. So I don't know how black Americans feel about this. I would like to see that in the comments, right? But be really, really kind. Don't get mad, right? This video is all about education, nothing really serious. Let me see that in the comments, right? Do not forget, is Global Just with BJ your friend, your sister? Do not forget to subscribe, like, and share these videos to everyone. I'll be back. See you later. Bye.